Okay, so think about this. Imagine your company, working together, like with the kind of synergy you see in an Olympic relay team or a championship soccer squad.
Yeah.
That's the power of collaboration
Yeah.
we're diving into today.
Awesome.
Using Tom Kelley's 10 Faces of Innovation as our guide,
Yeah.
you mentioned wanting to foster more innovation within your own team,
Right.
and I think these insights will be really valuable for you.
Yeah, it's fascinating how Kelly uses real-world examples to illustrate the power of collaboration.
Yeah.
He talks about Samsung, a company that back in the day was known for, manufacturing but not really design.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to change that, so they made a pretty radical move, embedding their designers with IDEO in California
Okay.
for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
That's quite a commitment.
It is.
What was the impact of that?
Well, they ended up designing 27 new products.
Wow.
And Samsung's design reputation absolutely skyrocketed. They even started making the cover of Business Week. But more importantly, this collaboration sparked a company-wide commitment to design that helped propel them to become a global leader.
That's a fantastic example of how breaking down silos and bringing different perspectives together can lead to those unexpected breakthroughs.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, what kind of cross-functional collaborations could you explore within your own team? Could connecting your marketing team with the engineers or getting real-time feedback from sales to the product designers unlock new possibilities?
Yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. And, Kelly also talks about those individuals he calls collaborators as glue.
Okay.
These are the people who can bridge the gaps between different departments and disciplines,
Right.
helping to create a more unified team dynamic.
That makes a lot of sense. You need someone to help weave it all together.
Right.
It's not enough to just throw people from different departments together and hope for the best.
Exactly.
What are some of the qualities of these glue people?
Okay.
I'm curious how you'd identify them in a team setting.
Well, they're often people who are naturally curious and have a knack for connecting with others.
Okay.
They might not be the loudest voices in the room,
Mm-hmm.
but they're the ones who are actively listening, asking questions,
Right.
and making connections that others might miss.
Yeah.
They're the facilitators,
Yeah.
the translators, the ones who can speak the language of different departments
Right.
and help everyone understand each other.
So how do we encourage this kind of glue-like collaboration? Kelly suggests thinking beyond the traditional team-building activities, right?
He does. He actually proposes things like gourmet cooking classes
Okay.
or even triathlons.
Triathlons. That's
Yeah.
pretty intense.
It is.
Do you think that would work for every team?
Maybe not every team,
Okay.
but Kelly shares an interesting story about IDEO employees doing triathlons with their clients like Mercedes and Cargill.
Wow.
And surprisingly, it had a really positive impact on their relationships.
I can see how pushing boundaries together
Yeah.
and sharing those moments of triumph could build a different kind of bond than, say, a casual round of golf.
Exactly. It's about creating a shared experience that goes beyond the usual work dynamics.
Right.
It's about vulnerability, trust, and those moments of exhilaration when you push past your perceived limitations together.
That reminds me of something else that stuck with me from the book.
Mm.
The idea that the currency of collaboration doesn't always have to be money.
You're thinking of IDEO and the Boston Beer Company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
IDEO wanted to work with them, but knew their standard fees might be a hurdle for a smaller company.
Yeah.
They got creative and accepted beer as partial payment.
Wow.
I love that story.
Yeah.
What can we learn from their approach?
It highlights the importance of being open-minded and finding creative solutions.
Yeah.
Collaboration shouldn't be limited by traditional ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
By thinking outside the box, you can create partnerships that are mutually beneficial, even if resources are limited.
This next concept really resonated with me. The baton pass. I love how Kelly draws a parallel between successful relay teams and effective project handoffs in business.
A powerful analogy. He uses the 1936 Berlin Olympics women's relay race as an example. The heavily favored German team dropped the baton,
Oh.
and the U.S. team, initially considered underdogs, ended up winning gold.
So what's the takeaway there?
It emphasizes that smooth transitions, clear communication, and synchronized timing are crucial for project success.
Yeah.
It's like in a relay race, if you fumble the handoff, the entire race can be jeopardized no matter how strong individual team members are.
Thinking of every project as a relay race with strategic baton passes is such a powerful shift in perspective.
It is?
What about when teams are spread across the globe?
Yeah.
How do these collaborative principles play out in a virtual world?
Yeah.
You mentioned having team members in different time zones, right?
Right. That's a challenge Kelley addresses head on.
Okay.
He believes that face-to-face interaction is still crucial even in our digital age. He shares an anecdote about a project involving team members from multiple countries and the importance of building those personal connections early on.
So it's not just about video conferencing and emails then.
Right. It's about taking the time for those initial moments of, shared meals,
Yeah.
informal conversations, even just casual check-ins to build trust and rapport.
Right.
Once that foundation is established, you can use technology more effectively to maintain momentum and keep everyone connected.
What kind of strategies would you suggest for facilitating these in-person connections, even if it's virtual? Could you do a virtual coffee break or something like that?
Absolutely. Virtual coffee breaks are a great idea. You could also do online team building activities or even just encourage more informal communication through chat channels or video calls. The key is to create opportunities for people to connect on a personal level beyond just the task at hand.
That makes perfect sense. It's about finding those ways to humanize the virtual workspace and remind everyone that they're part of a team, even if they're not physically together. I spend a lot of time at Whole Foods, and I've always been impressed by how invested the employees seem in their work. They're always so helpful and friendly.
Yeah,
It seems like a really collaborative environment.
it is. Kelley actually highlights Whole Foods as a case study for how team-based structures can drive success.
Okay.
He points to their unique hiring process. New employees are actually hired by the specific team they'll be working with and have to earn their teammates' approval to stay on.
Wow, that's a high level of accountability right from the start.
Yeah.
I imagine that creates a strong sense of ownership and responsibility within each team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it fosters a collaborative spirit from day one. They also have a lot of autonomy in deciding what they stock, how they display it, and even how they compensate themselves based on their team's performance.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've found a way to combine the benefits of a small, tight-knit team
Yeah.
with the resources of a larger company.
Right.
But doesn't that level of autonomy create chaos?
That's a good question.
How do they ensure everyone is aligned with the company's overall goals?
Well, one key factor is their culture of transparency.
Okay.
All employees have access to pay and performance data, which helps create a sense of fairness and encourages everyone to work together towards shared goals. This open approach to information sharing fosters trust and encourages more collaborative decision-making compared to traditional top-down management structures.
So they're not just throwing people together and hoping for the best.
Right.
They've created a structure that supports collaboration and empowers teams to take ownership.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Successful collaboration requires both the right mindset and the right environment.
You're absolutely right. And it's not just about structures and processes.
Right.
It's about fostering a culture where people feel valued, supported, and inspired to bring their best selves to the table.
Speaking of inspiration, I love how Kelley draws inspiration from the world of sports. He talks about the legendary soccer coach, Steve Nagowesco, who had a surprisingly hands-off coaching style. As a parent of a soccer-obsessed kid, this one really caught my attention.
Okay, cool. So Nagowesco believed in empowering his players to make decisions on the field, fostering a culture of trust and confidence. He did most of his coaching during practice, and during games, he would often sit in the stands, letting the team captain make decisions about substitutions.
Wow, that takes a lot of trust in your team.
It does.
Wouldn't a hands-off approach be risky in a high-pressure environment like a soccer game?
Yeah.
I can see how that could lead to chaos if the players aren't prepared.
That's where the importance of preparation and building a strong team culture comes in. Nagowesco spent a lot of time during practice instilling his philosophy and giving his players the tools they needed to make those decisions on the field. He wasn't just letting them run wild.
Right.
He was creating an environment where they could thrive.
So it's about empowering the team without abdicating responsibility as a leader.
Yes.
It's about finding that balance between guidance and autonomy.
Right.
That's a valuable lesson for any leader, whether you're coaching a soccer team or leading a business.
It is. It's about recognizing that sometimes the best way to lead is to step back and trust your team to find their own solutions.
So what happens when collaboration hits a snag?
Okay.
Are there ways to turn opposition into an advantage?
Absolutely. Kelley talks about the importance of embracing critics. He tells a great story about an IDEO designer, Maura Shea, who was working on a hospital redesign project.
Okay, hospitals are high-stakes environments.
Right.
I can imagine there was a lot of resistance to change.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, Shea encountered a doctor who was very skeptical of the project and quite vocal about his concerns. Instead of getting defensive, she listened carefully to his criticisms and then did something unexpected.
Okay.
She invited him to join the project team.
That's a bold move.
It was.
I can see how that could backfire if the doctor wasn't willing to collaborate.
Yeah.
What was his reaction? Did he resist, or was he open to working together?
He was initially hesitant, but once he realized that Shay was genuinely interested in his perspective and valued his expertise, he became a valuable asset to the team. By acknowledging his concerns and making him feel heard, she transformed him from a critic into an advocate.
That's a powerful example of how embracing different perspectives, even those that initially seem oppositional, can strengthen a project. It's about recognizing that critics often have valid points.
Yeah.
And that their insights can lead to better solutions.
It's about shifting your perspective from seeing critics as roadblocks to seeing them as potential allies.
That reminds me of another fascinating character. Kelley introduces the director.
Yes. He uses examples like Steven Spielberg and Steve Jobs, people who have that incredible ability to assemble talented teams, set ambitious goals, and create a culture of innovation.
I'm intrigued. What are some of the key traits that make these directors so successful?
Well, Kelley highlights 5 key traits. They give center stage to others. They're constantly seeking out new projects. They rise to tough challenges. They aim for the moon. And they utilize a diverse toolbox. They're visionaries who can inspire and motivate, but they're also pragmatic problem solvers who can adapt and improvise when needed.
So it's not just about having a grand vision. It's also about having the practical skills and the willingness to roll up your sleeves and get things done.
Exactly.
It's about knowing when to delegate and when to step in and lead from the front.
Yeah.
That's a delicate balance.
It is, and it's something that takes practice and self-awareness. But when you find that balance, it can be incredibly powerful.
At IDEO, they jumpstart innovation through regular brainstorming sessions, right?
Yeah.
I've always found brainstorming to be a bit hit or miss. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it feels like a waste of time. What's their secret?
Kelley believes that brainstorming, when done right, can be far more than just a way to come up with ideas. It can actually foster a culture of innovation within a company. He describes IDEO's brainstorming program, where they hold lunchtime sessions on various topics, encouraging wild ideas and deferring judgment.
So it's about creating a safe space for experimentation and creative risk-taking.
Exactly.
I can see how that would help people feel more comfortable sharing those out-there ideas that might lead to unexpected breakthroughs.
Right. And the benefits go beyond just the immediate ideas generated.
Okay.
Kelley points out that regular brainstorming can strengthen organizational memory, reinforce a mindset of continuous learning, and even create what he calls status auctions for creative talent.
Status auctions.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that term. What does he mean by that?
It's the idea that when people shine in brainstorms, it raises their profile within the company and creates opportunities for them to contribute in new ways.
Right.
It's like a talent showcase for innovative thinkers.
Yeah.
People start to see who the creative powerhouses are.
I love that.
Yeah.
It creates a positive feedback loop where creativity is recognized and rewarded.
Exactly.
That can be a powerful motivator. So what's next in our deep dive? What other surprising insights does Kelley have in store for us?
Well, you might be surprised to hear this, but Kelley dedicates an entire chapter to the power of names. He believes that choosing the right name can have a profound impact on a product or even a company's overall success. He uses examples like the zipper, which was originally called the hookless fastener,
Wow.
and the death ride, a grueling bike race in California.
Those are some pretty drastic examples.
They are.
I never really thought about how a name could make or break something.
Yeah.
What makes a good name?
A good name is memorable, distinctive, and captures the essence of the experience.
Yeah.
It can create excitement, build anticipation, and even inspire action. Think about the names of some of your favorite brands. They probably evoke a certain feeling or image in your mind.
I'm starting to see how seemingly small details, like a name, can play a big role in shaping perception and driving success.
Yeah.
This deep dive is already full of surprising insights. I'm eager to hear more about what Kelley has to say.
Well, next we'll explore the role of the experience architect
Okay.
and how they craft those moments that make a product, service, or even a simple interaction truly memorable.
I can't wait. It sounds like we're about to enter a whole new realm of innovation where every detail matters.
You're absolutely right. Get ready to see the world through the eyes of an experience architect. It's a perspective that can transform the way you think about design, customer engagement, and even the smallest details of your everyday life.
So we've talked about collaboration in a broader sense.
Right.
But what about the role of the experience architect? This concept really intrigued me,
Okay.
especially since you mentioned wanting to make your upcoming product launch truly stand out.
Yeah. Experience architecture is all about creating those moments that captivate and delight, whether they're physical or digital.
Okay.
It's about considering every sense, sight, sound, touch, even taste and smell,
Wow.
to craft a holistic experience.
That makes sense. It's like the difference between a meal that just fills you up
Yeah.
and one that's a full-blown culinary experience,
Right.
tantalizing all your senses.
Exactly. Kelley talks about the lobby at Vodafone's Lisbon offices.
Okay.
Picture walking in and seeing this massive cube seemingly floating above a reflecting pool.
Okay, that sounds pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But what makes it so special?
Well, it's actually a screen. It can show a soccer match 1 minute, a news program the next,
Wow.
and even become interactive, allowing visitors to write on it, draw, or play games using their phones.
So it's not just a static art piece.
Right.
It's dynamic,
Yeah.
multisensory,
Yeah.
and encourages people to engage with it.
Hmm.
I'm starting to understand how this ties into the concept of experience architecture.
It's a great example of how you can create those wow moments that stick with people. Experience architects are like the stage directors of the business world,
Okay.
orchestrating experiences that draw people in and leave a lasting impression.
This all seems amazing, but I can't help but wonder,
Doesn't creating these kinds of experiences require a huge budget
Yeah.
and a team of design gurus?
Yeah.
My company is pretty small,
Okay.
and we have limited resources.
That's a common misconception. Kelly argues that you don't need a fancy degree or a bottomless budget to be a good experience architect.
Okay.
It's about having a keen eye for detail and a deep understanding of your audience. He uses a cafe near his home cafe, Baron, as an example.
What's so special about this cafe? It sounds pretty ordinary.
On the surface, it is. It's a family-run business serving good food with friendly service and a cozy atmosphere.
Okay.
But when you look closer, you see all these little touches that make it special. The handwritten menu on slate tiles, the outdoor seating area that takes advantage of the California sunshine,
Okay.
even the blend of sounds, from the espresso machine to the outdoor fountain. It all comes together to create a unique experience.
So it's not about one grand gesture,
Right.
but rather a series of thoughtful details
Yeah.
that create a sense of warmth, authenticity, and a welcoming ambiance.
It makes me think of those hidden gem restaurants you find that are off the beaten path.
Yeah.
They might not have fancy decor, but the food is incredible.
Right.
And there's just something special about the atmosphere.
Exactly. It's about those subtle cues that make people feel good and want to come back for more.
That makes me think of another example from the book.
Right.
The event that IDEO designed for Snap-on tools.
Right.
It seems like such a strange pairing.
Yeah.
Mechanics, tools, and design.
Yeah.
What did they do to make that experience memorable?
They took this seemingly mundane product and turned it into a theatrical experience.
Wow.
They rented an abandoned auto repair shop and transformed it into an interactive showcase,
Okay.
complete with classic cars, prototypes displayed on oil drums, and even video clips of mechanics talking about their love of tools.
So they appealed to both the head and the heart,
Yeah.
engaging the client team on an emotional level.
Exactly.
It wasn't just about showcasing the tools, it was about telling a story and creating a connection.
Right.
But where do you even begin if you want to create these kinds of experiences? I feel a bit overwhelmed just thinking about it.
Well, Kelley offers a simple but powerful question to get you started.
Okay.
Is this ordinary or extraordinary?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
How would you apply that to a business or project?
Look at every aspect of your business. The experience of calling your customer service line, the onboarding process for new employees, the packaging of your products, even the waiting room.
Okay.
Ask yourself, is this just okay, or is it something that truly stands out?
So it's about constantly looking for ways to elevate the ordinary and create those moments of delight.
Right.
It's about paying attention to the details that most people might overlook.
Exactly. And Kelley talks about the importance of what he calls little experiences.
Okay.
Those small but impactful improvements that can make a big difference.
Sure.
Like pre-mixed antifreeze.
Pre-mixed antifreeze?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very exciting.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it eliminates the hassle of missing chemicals and the risk of spills. It's about anticipating customer needs and removing those points of friction.
So it's those little things that make people's lives easier
Yeah.
and create a more positive experience.
Uh-huh.
I can definitely see how that could add up over time.
And these small improvements can actually be surprisingly profitable.
How so?
Well, in the case of pre-mixed antifreeze, you're essentially paying a premium for water.
Okay.
But because it solves a problem and makes your life easier, you're happy to pay for it.
Hmm.
It's about finding those trigger points, those
Okay.
crucial elements that have a disproportionate impact on customer satisfaction.
That makes sense. Like you said earlier, it's all about the experience.
Yeah.
What are some other examples of trigger points?
Kelley highlights hotel beds and alarm clocks.
Mm.
Think about it. A comfortable bed can make you overlook other flaws in a hotel room,
Yeah.
while a frustrating alarm clock can ruin your whole stay.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than an alarm clock that's impossible to figure out when you're already sleep deprived.
Right.
Have there been any examples where companies have really transformed something by focusing on these trigger points?
Absolutely. Kelley talks about the evolution of the paint can. For decades, paint cans were clunky, messy, and just plain frustrating to use.
Right.
Then Dutch Boy came along and redesigned the entire experience. They created a cube-shaped plastic container with a sturdy handle, a screw on top, and a spout that makes pouring so much easier.
That's a great example. They took something universally disliked
Yeah.
and turned it into something that's actually pleasant to use.
It proves that even the most mundane products can be reimagined and improved with a little ingenuity. What other industries do you think are ripe for this kind of disruption?
Well, taking a cue from the paint can example,
Yeah.
what about the home improvement industry in general? There's so many products and processes that are just begging for a design overhaul.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Think about all the tools and materials involved in a typical DIY project.
Right.
There's definitely room for improvement in terms of making those products more user-friendly and the overall experience less daunting for the average homeowner.
Kelley also talks about the rise of those mix-in ice cream shops like Cold Stone Creamery. They've turned a simple treat into a whole interactive experience.
Right.
It's genius, really.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Instead of just buying a pre-packaged pint, you get to customize your creation and watch as it's made right in front of you.
I love that.
Yeah,
It engages you on multiple levels and turns a simple purchase into an event.
exactly.
It's like going from a passive consumer to an active participant in the creation process.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of creating an experience, let's talk about packaging.
Okay.
I'm fascinated by the idea that something as seemingly simple as packaging can transform a product experience.
It absolutely can. Kelley highlights Benjamin Moore's paint color samples as a great example. They've moved away from the traditional messy paint chips
Yeah.
and now offer small, clear plastic jars of paint.
Yeah.
It's such a simple but brilliant idea.
I've actually used those.
Absolutely.
They're so much easier to work with, and you don't end up with a drawer full of paint chips that you'll never use again.
Right.
It's a win-win for both the customer and the company.
Exactly. They've taken a real pain point in the customer journey
Yeah.
and transformed it into a delightful experience.
Right.
And it's not just about aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's about sustainability and practicality as well.
This whole conversation has really opened my eyes to the endless opportunities for innovation when you start thinking about packaging as part of the overall experience.
Yeah.
What about mapping the customer journey?
Okay.
How does that fit into the role of the experience architect?
It's a crucial tool. Kelley talks about how IDEO maps out every step a customer takes,
Okay.
from the initial trigger that sparks their interest
Right.
to the post-purchase interactions. This helps them identify those critical moments where the experience can be improved.
That makes sense. It's like creating a roadmap for the customer's journey so you can anticipate their needs and design solutions that create a smoother, more enjoyable experience.
Exactly. They use the example of buying a car, which is often a process filled with anxiety and potential pitfalls. By mapping out the entire journey, you can identify those points of friction and design solutions that create a more positive experience for the customer.
You mentioned you are working on a new product launch.
Yeah,
Have you thought about mapping out the customer journey for that?
that's a good point.
Hmm.
I haven't done that yet, but it's definitely something I need to consider.
Yeah.
It would be really helpful in identifying those areas where we can create those little experiences that make a big difference.
I think it would be incredibly valuable. It can really help you anticipate customer needs and design a launch that feels seamless and exciting from start to finish. It's all about moving beyond simple transactions and building lasting relationships with your customers.
You're absolutely right. And it's those relationships that ultimately drive loyalty and long-term success.
So we've talked a lot about, external customer experiences.
All right.
But what about the internal experience, the
Mhm.
one employees have every day?
Yeah.
How does that impact a company's ability to innovate and collaborate effectively?
That's crucial.
Yeah.
You can't expect to create a seamless and engaging customer experience if your employees aren't feeling valued and inspired in their own work environment.
It makes sense if your team is feeling stressed or disengaged, it's going to be much harder for them to, bring their best selves to the table and contribute those creative sparks.
Exactly. Kelley points to Robert Ben Moshe, the former chairman of MetLife, as a leader who really understood this.
Well,
He made a point of holding regular town hall meetings with employees, specifically to gather their feedback, even the critical kind.
so instead of just dictating from the top down,
Yeah.
he created a space for open dialogue and welcomed diverse perspectives. That's interesting.
Yeah. He believed that the more comfortable employees feel sharing their thoughts, even the negative ones, the better the company could adapt and improve. It's about creating a culture of transparency and continuous learning.
That reminds me of something you said earlier about the importance of embracing critics.
Mhm.
Sometimes the most valuable insights come from those who are willing to challenge the status quo.
Absolutely. And Ben Moshe's approach had a real impact, leading to improvements in both sales and employee morale. It's proof that investing in the employee experience can have a direct impact on the bottom line.
It all comes back to this idea of collaboration, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's between departments across continents or even within an individual's own skill set.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where everyone feels empowered to contribute their unique talents.
And that's what makes this deep dive so powerful. It's about recognizing that innovation thrives when people feel connected, supported, and inspired to bring their best selves to the table.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into collaboration and innovation,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listener to walk away with?
Don't underestimate the power of small changes and thoughtful gestures. It's those seemingly insignificant details that can create a ripple effect, transforming ordinary experiences into something extraordinary. It's about shifting our perspective from seeing limitations to seeing possibility.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about focusing on solutions and embracing a growth mindset.
And remember, collaboration isn't just about working with others. It's also about collaborating with yourself, bringing together your own unique blend of skills, passions, and experiences to create something truly remarkable.
So whether you're leading a team, brainstorming a new project, or just looking to bring more creativity into your work and life,
Yeah,
I think the insights we've uncovered today can be incredibly valuable.
absolutely. Embrace the power of collaboration. Break down those silos. Seek out those little experiences and never stop exploring new ways to turn the ordinary into something extraordinary.
And with that, we'll leave you with one final thought. We've talked a lot about external collaborations,
Right.
but what about the potential that lies within? How can you collaborate with yourself to unlock new levels of creativity and innovation?
That's a deep dive all on its own.